Hey guys, this is Spartacus here, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, it's going to be a lot different than usual. I'm actually going to be doing kind of a review of a certain controller called the Xbox Elite controller. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about this controller. Of course, this controller is exclusively to the Xbox One, but it can also be used for Windows 10 as well if you're someone who games on PC and likes to use a controller instead of mouse and keyboard. And the thing that's unique about this controller compared to like a normal Xbox controller, it's kind of like a SCUF controller where it has features like the paddles at the bottom and trigger stoppers. So this is actually a video I've been wanting to make for a very long time. I've always been very curious what the Xbox One Elite controller has always been like, because I've never tried like any of those SCUF or modified controllers before, and now I finally was able to get my hands on one, and now I want to make a video about it to tell you my thoughts about the controller and if this controller indeed does make you a better player at certain video games. So we're going to go ahead and cut to some real life footage of me showing off the controller by unboxing it and showing it what it actually looks like and all its features it has available. So I'll catch you guys back here in the normal gameplay after the real life footage. So this is the Xbox Elite controller for the Xbox One. It can also be used on Windows 10 like I said earlier, and of course obviously this is the white one. You can get a black version of this if you wanted to. I believe when these first came out they were in black, and then I found one on Amazon that was white, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm gonna get the white one because I had no idea there was a white one. But yes, this is the box it comes in. It is a lot thicker than I thought it was going to be, and it's because it comes with a lot of things actually. So on the side here it comes with the controller itself, right? It is a wireless controller, keep in mind. You can have two different kind of interchangeable D-pads, which is really cool. We'll look at those later. There are different thumbstick sizes and different like types of thumbsticks. So there's like the dome ones, and then there's the ones that kind of have like an indent in it a little bit. Then there are paddles that go on the back of it. There's a carrying case, which is pretty nice. I didn't even know that came with it. Two AA batteries and a USB cable, which I also didn't know it come with. And then on the very back, you can see the front and the back of the controller. The front of it is pretty self-explanatory. As you can see, the D-pad does look different. That's one of the new D-pads that I guess Microsoft decided to make for this controller. And at the very middle, there's a different button that can switch between 1 and 2. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this does. I do believe if you hook up this controller to your computer, you can actually modify it in like very specific ways, like the sensitivity on the certain joysticks and stuff like that. I personally have not tried this out yet, but what it does is you can change the different modes. So the sensitivity on the thumbsticks will be this setting on setting 1, and then on setting 2 will be a different setting on that, or something like that. I don't know. I think that's a pretty cool feature that you don't really see other controller companies make, and I'll have to like test it out later in the future. Then up here you can see the behind the controller, or the back of it. I don't really know what you want to call it, but as you can see there are the paddles, and there's these other switch on the back of the paddles as well, which we will talk about those once we open up the box. And that's pretty much it. The other side basically just says the same thing. And so yeah, let's go ahead and open up this box here with the single hand that I have. You know, that was a lot easier than I thought. So when you first open up the box, and yeah, there's like nothing in here, by the way, in case you're wondering. So when you first open up the box, as you can see, there is this carrying case, which actually carries like everything inside of it, which we'll look at just a second. It's a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. And then you can take this part off, and there's something underneath it. So you can open this up. Well, actually, before we open it up, there's actually this little box here, which contains the cable, or the charging cable. I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so this is what the charging cable is going to look like, you guys. Oh my gosh. There we go. Okay, so yeah, this is what the charging cable looks like. It's actually pretty nice. It's a pretty long cable. It's also not made out of cheap like plastic either or whatever. It's actually made kind of a different fabric, and it's a lot more stable. It looks like I haven't tried it out yet, but it looks really nice. It's kind of a more expensive type of cable, I guess you could say. And then you can flip this open. Here's like the manual to like start it up. Some other like stuff that comes with it. There's also like a card for like 1 week or 2 weeks of like Xbox Game Pass or something like that. So that's pretty much all that's inside the box here. And then of course we're going to the main deal here, the main portion of this video. Inside this carrying case is of course going to be your controller. So you gotta zip it open. This is very hard to do with one hand. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up this case here. So there we go. We have the controller itself, right? And this controller is very unique. Like we were just explaining, we have like this. You can switch it between different modes depending what you set it to. And then these thumbsticks and the D-pad here are actually magnetic when you take them on and off. You don't actually have to put up so much force to actually take these things off. Like for example, the D-pad, you can easily just take it off and then it hooks back on magnetically, which I think is very cool. Something I did not know until I actually bought the controller. Same with the joysticks. You just take them off and you can change them whenever you want to, and they kind of just magnet back on there. It's really cool, honestly. I did not know this was a feature, or like that's how they work. I knew you could like take them off and stuff like that, but I didn't think they would be magnetic, and I just think that's really cool. So we're gonna go ahead and flip behind the controller because that's exactly what I want to explain here, because that might be the confusing part about this video. So we're just gonna kind of go over to the side here for a little bit. So of course we got these paddles on the back, right? We got 4 different paddles. Now each of these paddles are different buttons that are already actually on the controller. They're actually the A, X, Y, and B button, and so that's what they're actually meant for. Now you might be able to change them to like the bumpers, like RB and stuff like that, but I think the only way to do that is if you hook it up to the controller to the computer and try and modify it yourself on like the website or something. And so that's basically what these paddles do. Now, how do these paddles benefit you necessarily? So if we take a look at the front of the controller, right? So on the front of the controller, like when you're playing Call of Duty, for example, right? Because that's the game I play. This is where you look around, right? And if you want to jump, you have to take your thumb off the joystick and press A, right? Because that's normally your jump button. Or you have to press B if you're like on tactical controls into melee, right? But with the paddles on the back of it, you don't have to take your thumb off the joystick to actually jump or press the melee button, for me anyway, right? And I think that's really cool. Or even in some cases, if you want to have the other paddles on there, you could like press the paddles to press X to reload without having to take your thumb off, or to switch weapons. Now, what's cool about these paddles, you can actually take these off as well, and they're magnetic as well. They're very easy to take off. You just take it off just like that, and then to put it back on, you gotta just do that. There we go. Easy, right? So you can take the paddles off, you can keep them on, you can take them off, do whatever you want to modify it to way you're liking. Now you probably see these green switches here. You can like switch them on, or you can switch them, if I can do it, off. There you go, really easy. Now what do those switches do? They're actually trigger stoppers, and you can kind of see this from like these little symbols right here. So this trigger stopper is meant for this trigger right here, which is basically the shooting button in like Call of Duty and like Fortnite and stuff like that. Now when you press the trigger, it goes all the way down. Now when you switch this on, it doesn't go all the way down. It actually stops like midway, as you can see from like this little, if I can show it correctly, this little gray thing, it kind of shows like how far it actually stops, which is really cool. And the same thing happens with this side. You can go ahead with the aim down sights button, you can have a trigger stopper for that. Now this is very useful if you're using weapons in Call of Duty or maybe Fortnite that are semi-automatic, because that requires you to press the trigger multiple times in order to get multiple shots off of the actual weapon itself. Of course, automatic weapons, it doesn't really help that greatly, I guess, but when it comes to semi-auto weapons like pistols and maybe like some semi-auto rifles, then they are very, very useful, and that's honestly one of my favorite features about this gun. Now, another thing that's kind of small, but I want to point out anyway, you can notice that there's a gray part right here compared to the white for the rest of the kind of controller you see. This gray part is actually a rubber grip, so it helps you actually, like let's say your hands get sweaty and stuff like that, instead of like your controller like feeling like it's slipping out of your hands, you actually have a better grip on the controller itself, and you're just able to hold it better, which I think is really cool. Now if we actually go back to the case here, you can see that you can you can acquire the different D-pad here, which is kind of like the normal one. We also have some different joysticks here, which are also different sizes, like these ones right here. You can see that they're actually longer. And why would you want a longer joystick? Now for some people, longer joysticks actually feel more comfortable for their hands, which makes a lot of sense. But for me personally, if you replace, like let's say the right joystick right here, right, we replace this one, if I can take it off, we replace this one with a longer joystick, right? It becomes a lot longer. And scientifically, if you have a joystick that is taller, it helps your aim better. And scientifically, it's been proven that, I guess, having a higher joystick makes your aim a lot better. And so that's, if that's something you want to try out, it is kind of hard to get used to at first, but once you are used to using a higher joystick, you can never go back to a shorter joystick. If you guys don't feel like, if you feel like the only thing you want out of this controller is the higher joysticks, you guys can also get Control Freaks. Not that I'm sponsored by them or anything, but Control Freaks actually make your joystick higher, and you can get different like ones that have like different cool looking like logos on them or whatever. And they can make your joysticks higher as well. So you can go onto controlfreak.com and actually get some of those for a pretty cheap price. And that's pretty much what's inside the actual case itself. Of course, this area is kind of where you can put your paddles as well. Another thing I like to mention is that the button you use to kind of like hook up your controller to the Xbox One wirelessly to kind of sync it, if you double tap this green button, it'll actually turn off and on the paddles. So if I were to double click it now, it would vibrate and it will tell you that the paddles are turned off. So if you tried pressing on the paddles in the game, they wouldn't work. But if you double click this button again, it'll do another vibration type sync thing and it will turn the paddles back on. So very customizable controller, something I personally enjoyed using so far. I have only used it for like maybe a week or so right now, but honestly I've gotten used to it, and I'm gonna I don't know, it's a good controller, you guys. It is a little bit expensive, but it is very nice to use. I like the different customized options you have for it, and that's pretty much what I gotta say for the controller right now. So we're gonna go switch back to the gameplay, and I'm gonna finish off the video talking about if this controller actually does make you a better gamer. Keep in mind, you guys, the controller I just showed off, this is Series 1 of the Xbox One Elite controllers. There is going to be a Series 2 controller coming out this November that has more, I guess, rubber grip on the actual controller itself, and then there will also be like a shorter trigger stopper and stuff like that. So keep in mind that this is Series 1. There will be a Series 2 controller coming out this November in case you guys want to save your money up and get the newer one instead of getting this one. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about if this controller is pay to win now that you guys have seen all the customizable options available on it. So in my opinion, even before I started using this controller, I always thought that SCUF controllers and this Xbox One Elite controller were considered kind of pay to win because you have an advantage that most other players you're going to go up against do not have. And I still stick with that opinion today. I really think that this controller is pay to win. Same with SCUF controllers, they're basically the same thing. And so I really do think that this controller is pay to win. You're spending more money to actually have an advantage over other players in game. Like for example, you have the paddles on the back, which are able for you to jump and basically look and aim at an enemy, where without those paddles you're not really able to do that as fast. Same with like meleeing. If you play on tactical controls like me, like tactical controls, it switches the B and the right joystick button, and so instead of taking my thumb off of the joystick to melee, I can just press the paddle on the bottom of my controller in order to like basically, I guess, melee an enemy or whatever. Panic knifing is what they used to call it. And also there's the trigger stoppers, right? If you and an enemy are using semi-auto weapons like a pistol or maybe a semi-automatic rifle, you are going to end up winning the gunfight most likely because you have those trigger stoppers which allow you to press the trigger a lot faster than the opponent is. So I do think these controllers are pay to win, which is a shame because people are paying loads of money to actually have an advantage over other people in game. In my personal opinion, when there is going to be a new Xbox console, right, I'm sure we've all like heard a little bit of rumors about what the next Xbox console is going to be or the next PlayStation console is going to be, right? In my personal opinion, when those consoles come out, the standard controller, the standard controller that comes out for the new Xbox and PlayStation consoles, I honestly think they should be like these controllers, because that way you don't have people having an advantage over everyone else. Everybody is basically on an even playing field because they all have access to this type of controller, and that's just kind of my personal opinion. So that is pretty much it for the Xbox One X review of the Elite controller. I enjoy my time using it. I'm going to continue to use it to try and get a little bit more used to it, because of course before I started using this controller I was not used to using the paddles. It did get some time to get used to, and personally I enjoy using it. I recommend trying it out out at least. I mean, don't buy it necessarily. Maybe find a friend who has one of these and try it out for yourself just to see what you think. But it is a pretty cool controller nonetheless, and it is kind of a shame that it is a little bit pay to win, just like the SCUF controller. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for more videos in the future, and I shall catch you guys later.